Donald Trump had a disastrous day out on the campaign trail yesterday, which means that his stooges are jumping to clean up his mess. And one of the worst of Donald Trump's stooges, Byron Donalds, was trying to do just that, trying and failing to do just that on CNN this morning. But John Berman shut him down and almost kicked him off air at one point in what was a devastating interview for Byron as he tried to clean up Donald Trump saying last night that he's going to protect women whether they like it or not. It was just a really gross and weird comment for Trump to make. It's getting a lot of backlash, deservedly so, and we are going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really means the world to me. Now let's see Byron Donalds just collapse in this interview.
With us now is Congressman Byron Donalds, a Republican from Florida. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us. I want to play a little bit of what Donald Trump said last night about protecting women.
I said, well, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. I'm going to protect them.
All right. Why is Donald Trump telling women he will do things whether they like it or not?
John, that is grossly inaccurate what you just played. Play the full clip. Play it in its context. He was talking about the tragedy at our southern border that led to the death of Jocelyn Nungare. Jocelyn's mother has come out and endorsed Donald Trump because she fully believes that if Donald Trump was president, her daughter would be alive. And so what he was talking about was, I'm going to protect women. I'm going to protect children. And then he was just telling a joke. Really, he was telling a joke about how some of the staff said, no, don't say you would protect women because they would take it out of context. Obviously, what CNN is doing right now, taking it out of context.
No. You're actually, you have the exact right context. You have the exact right context here, Congressman.
Aliens, especially violent, illegal alien criminals who have raped and who have murdered women in the United States.
Congressman, you just explained the exact right context was Donald Trump's story was telling people how people close to him, okay, his advisors were telling him not to use that type of language, to say, I am going to be your protector. And John, that is the context in that speech. No.
John,
that was what he was doing. And then he said, I'm going to protect them, the women, whether they like it or not. And I'm not the only one asking you about this language. Donald Trump, his advisors clearly knew it was an issue. And Nikki Haley has been talking about the language that Donald Trump... Hang on, Congressman. Nikki Haley, this is what she said about the type of language that Trump and Trump supporters have been using. Listen.
I mean, this bromance and this masculinity stuff, I mean, it borders on edgy to the point that it's going to make women uncomfortable. You know, you've got affiliated PACs that are doing commercials about calling Kamala the C word, or you had speakers at Madison Square Gardens, you know, referring to her and her pimps. That is not the way to win women.
So you're telling me there's no concern from Nikki Haley or, clearly, as Donald Trump said, from people close to him, his campaign, about the type of language he's using?
John, listen, I love the selective editing this morning. You guys are conflating two very separate things. Let's get to the core of the message that you played at the beginning. Donald Trump was talking about protecting women and children in our country from the ravages of illegal immigration. You see it now. We all know the headlines. Jocelyn Nungare, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley. These are women who were brutalized, killed, raped because of the border. And so Donald Trump is going to protect women in our country. He's going to protect children in our country.
Why say whether they like it or not?
We have lost 350,000 children in the United States.
Why say whether the women will like it or not? Why say whether the women will like it or not?
What I will tell you is that, once again, if you're going to clip 5 seconds out of an hour speech and not provide context, this is why the American people, frankly, are frustrated with media, because you guys play games, you take things out of context, you don't explain them clearly, and you want to get caught up in semantics. The heart of what Donald Trump said very clearly is he's going to protect the women of our country, because Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have refused to protect the women of our country, and that's a president should protect women and protect all Americans.
Congressman, here's a longer clip. Here's a longer clip of him, which leads up to him saying that he, despite what the advisors say he's going to protect the women whether they like it or not. Listen.
4 weeks ago, I was saying, no, I want to protect the people. I want to protect the women of our country. I want to protect the women. Sir, please don't say that. Why? They said, we think it's very inappropriate for you to say. I said, why? They said, sir, I just think it's inappropriate for you to say. Pay these guys a lot of money. Can you believe it? I said, well, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. I'm going to protect them.
Congressman?
And you know what happened after that was made? The women in Green Bay, Wisconsin, they stood on their feet and they cheered loudly because they want a president of the United States who's going to follow the law, who's actually going to enforce our borders. It's going to make sure that we don't have 14,000 illegal aliens who have been convicted of murder in our country, roaming free. The stories have been happening in every city of America where women have been victimized. Let's talk about the young girls who are illegal in our country
if you don't want to answer my question, if you don't want to answer my question, can you address Nikki Haley's comments?
John, I just answered your question.
You didn't address Nikki Haley's comments. Nikki Haley says that there's a type of language that listen, Congressman.
At this point.
Okay, so do you think Nikki Haley's comments are irrelevant? That's your answer. That's your answer to Nikki Haley, then. That Nikki Haley's irrelevant?
No, John, it's not. John, the answer that matters 5 days before an election is this. You have young girls who are from other countries who are trafficked to our southern border by the drug cartels. They are raped. They are sold into sex slavery.
Nikki Haley agrees with you on immigration, Congressman. Nikki Haley was talking about the language that Donald Trump is using.
So you want me to talk about what Nikki Haley said about the lineup at Madison Square Garden?
I want you to address, not the lineup at Madison Square Garden, the type of language that's being used by Donald Trump and others on the trail. She's saying it doesn't connect with women. What's your answer to what Nikki Haley is saying, Congressman?
John, I saw Nikki Haley's comments in their entirety. What she was talking about was the lineup of speakers at the Madison Square Garden rally. What Nikki Haley was saying is, well, how come there weren't more women? My response the other day was, well, Elise Stefanik is a woman. She spoke. Laura Trump,
once again, you're actually changing the context here. She's talking about an ad.
John, you don't want me to answer the question?
Let me play an ad that she talked about specifically there that comes from a super PAC funded by Elon Musk, which is supportive of Donald Trump. That's some of the language in the ad. Let's play it.
Kamala Harris is a C word. You heard that right. A big old C word. In fact, all of the other C words think she's the biggest C word of them all. That's right, she's a tax-hiking, regulation-loving, gun-grabbing communist.
That's what Nikki Haley is talking about, Congressman.
Okay, and that's Nikki's talking about that. That's not that from Donald Trump's campaign. It's from an outside group. You're assuming that Donald Trump can control what outside groups do. He cannot. That would be a violation of federal election law. You know this, John. So for Nikki Haley to try to put that on Donald Trump is not accurate. That's for outside groups to deal with. We could talk about the outside groups that are running ads against Donald Trump, calling him a fascist, liking him to Hitler, knowing the fact that there's been 2 attempts on his life, but they do it anyway. So don't try to just talk about what one super PAC did, because you're trying to run this clip from last night in Green Bay, again, taking the context away from our discussion today. The true context is that Donald Trump's going to do the job that a commander-in-chief should do, which is following the law, securing our borders, and yes, deporting a lot of illegal immigrants out of the country. This is why Americans favor Donald Trump when it comes to securing our border and immigration by double digits over Kamala Harris, because she's been an abject failure. And those are the facts.
Congressman Byron Donalds from Florida. The context is there's 5 days to go in this election, and the context is we like to show what the candidates are saying. We appreciate you being with us. Sarah?
Byron Donalds is certainly one of the more dishonest Trump stooges, and he's always smug in the way he responds to a host. And you saw that John Berman really just wasn't putting up with it. I would have liked for Byron to have been booted off of air, which we see happening more and more to these Trump stooges when he continued to lie. But I thought the pushback was good. Using Trump's words against him, always so important. Run the clip. They cannot deny it. They can't say it was taken out of context. I guess they can, but they just look ridiculous doing so. But it wasn't just John Berman calling out this attack, this weird remark from Donald Trump. It was also Kamala Harris right here.
I will comment on the former president, Donald Trump's remark about women and whether they like it or not. And listen, it actually is, I think, very offensive to women in terms of not understanding their agency, their authority, their right, and their ability to make decisions about their own lives, including their own bodies. And this is just the latest on a series of reveals by the former president of how he thinks about women and their agency. Whether he has said, as he has, that women should be punished for their choices, whether he has talked about his pride in taking away a fundamental right from women, whether it be how he has actually created a situation in America where now 1 in 3 women lives in a Trump abortion ban state and has legal restrictions on the right she rightly should have to make decisions about her own body.
Kamala Harris is spot on there, and it's so important that she continues to, and she of course is, drive home this message about who Donald Trump is actually out to protect and who he has stripped the rights away from, which is so many Americans, and he only plans on doing that more when he is the dictator on day one that he wants to be, unless we turn out and vote. And it's not just the rights that Donald Trump wants to strip away. Well, I guess it is a right. Healthcare in the ACA that Donald Trump wants to take away from millions of Americans, which Kamala Harris called out right here.
The other point I will refer to about in the last many hours is the Speaker's comments about the Affordable Care Act. Look, I've been saying throughout this campaign, be very clear that among the stakes in this election are whether we continue with the Affordable Care Act or not. It has been a part of Donald Trump's agenda for a very long time. He has made dozens of attempts to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And now we have further validation of that agenda from his supporter, the Speaker of the House. And what that would mean for the American people is that insurance companies could go back to a time when they would deny you coverage for health insurance based on pre-existing conditions.
As we have said so many times before, Donald Trump is not running for president. He is running away from prison. He is running to serve his rich friends, to help out Putin. It's the reason he wants to gut the Affordable Care Act and replace it with his concepts of a plan. And the only concept Donald Trump has is, how can he serve himself? So I promise you that health care plan that's 2 weeks away, yeah, it is still not coming. And we need to call that out, not just the failures of Donald Trump's prior administrations, but the failures of what would be his next already. And we're going to do that every single day on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.